you. Thank you so much for joining us. Are you having an amazing weekend?
Brilliant. Well, I love Vegan Camper, the best festival in the world. Yay!
It's so nice to just be around really like-minded people, all eating fantastic food that you don't have to worry about, and hopefully dancing some good tunes that were played last night.
So, big question to kick off with. Has there been any products that you've been looking into buying that you found actually have non-vegan ingredients in? And what did you do about it?
For me, it's the weird places that leather finds its way to, isn't it? So I'm a big audiophile. I wanted to treat myself to some nice headphones recently. Lambskin all over the place as this kind of mark of luxury. And of course, it's not luxury, it's a mark of horror. So for me, hard to find good headphones that are vegan, weirdly.
I think when you have children, issues arise because they are trying to be like their friends. So I've got twin sons, Jazz and Finn, and when they got to a certain age, they were wanting to eat the sweets that their friends were. So that becomes an issue because obviously to a kid, a sweet does not look like anything from an animal. So my answer to that was to buy things like vegan gummy bears, which obviously look really cute, but also to lobby. So we went to Roundtree saying, these pastels should be vegan, get the gelatin out. And in 2020, they did it!
Well done. So good. I really like chocolate. Chocolate's great, isn't it? Dark chocolate specifically is really good, and the brand Lindt do dark chocolate, and usually dark chocolate's vegan, obviously, but they do this mint chip one, right? And I was eating this mint chip one. It's dark mint chip. It's definitely going to be vegan. Didn't really think about it, and then flip it over, and it's not vegan. So I was like, oh goodness, I've been eating this chocolate I really like, and all it is those little minty crisp bits have got something of an animal in there. But as soon as I found that out, it's like they went away. So now it's just regular dark chocolate instead of the minty stuff.
Which, I mean, we've got loads of choice, so I'd like to think that that's not going to stop us from eating chocolate. But it does beg the question, though, doesn't it? When we as vegans are faced with whether we go to companies such as Lindt, or, of course, there's the big manufacturers suddenly and big corporations suddenly having vegan options, we're quite often faced with the question of, well, if we start buying the vegan products from those big corporations, is it demanding change? Or does it mean our hard-earned money is still funding animal exploitation?
So Viva is not set up to be a vegan club that's really niche. I set it up to actually reach people who are consuming animals and to make real change. And so it's really important that veganism is perceived as something that is accessible. Because if you take that argument to the logic that you can't buy from anybody that's making money from animal products, it means you cannot go into a supermarket. It means you can't go to a restaurant like Wagamama or Pizza Express who've got whole vegan menus because they make a lot of money from selling meat too. We all know that. So it's about making veganism, having people like those restaurant chains have veganism seriously on the menu and shifting them to change makes veganism normal to the mainstream, and that is really important, getting people to change. The other thing I've heard a lot on social media is that when Greggs, for example, did the very famous vegan sausage roll, that, oh no, it was only vegans going in there to buy them, so therefore they were propping up Greggs and they didn't go in there before. This is an absolute nonsense. I want to make this really clear because I spoke to Greggs before they actually launched. They did some very in-depth research into the British market, and I will just tell you the truth, that they decided the vegan market was not big enough to actually be able to launch and really push the vegan word without getting meat eaters to buy in. So, in fact, from their own research, they decided to still go with the word vegan, not plant-based, which I was so pleased about, because, again, it's making vegan accessible, normal. The perception of it is shifting all the time. Yeah. And of course, as you all know, it was a massive success. It raised their profits something like 40 million in 6 months, and they distributed 7 million to their over 20,000 staff as a thank you to them. The point is that sausage roll is still there, and other vegan products are still there at Greggs because they appeal to what they label as flexitarians, the meat reducers. It's the meat reducers who become vegetarian, who become vegan. We have to accept this and celebrate it and encourage it.
Ian, you actually touched on this in your talk yesterday. You brought up some incredible facts on your board about all of the different injuries and industries and different shops and supply chains that have had these huge high levels of vegan options come on board. So I'm really keen to hear your input on this as well.
Do you know what? I'm just my mind has gone to a place about 6 years ago where Henry and I went to see a screening of Cowspiracy. Right, and it was Kip Anderson was there, and he did a sort of Q&A afterwards, and someone was basically what he said was, if McDonald's are basically like the devil, if they put a vegan burger on their menu, everyone should go and buy it, even though they are still the devil, because money speaks. It's like the power of the pound is really, really powerful. So essentially, like a company like McDonald's really doesn't really care what they sell. So if all of us go and buy a vegan burger, they see that sort of thing like going up in a graph. They think, oh, that vegan thing's working. Maybe we'll put something else on the menu too. And that just slowly but surely, the crack's there, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And before you know it, you might be living in a world where McDonald's is like 50% vegan and maybe even more. So yeah, I think it's really important for people to go and buy vegan products in non-vegan places, because it just helps the whole movement.
I met the CEO of McDonald's in the USA.
No way.
Yeah, and back then, he'd left at this point. He said McDonald's had made the commitment to never sell anything vegan. Okay? Because we'd had the libel trial, which lasted 4 years in the UK. You're all too young to remember this, but I was there. I gave evidence at the libel trial. And but the thing is with McDonald's, when you mix with teenagers, you have to get real. That kid wants to go to McDonald's with their friends. This is the reality of living a life. And them having a vegan burger is a mega change. The fact that Burger King have said they're getting 50% within 7 years for a burger chain, this is what we need, because to change political systems, we live within capitalism. At the moment, I'm afraid it's really important to shift businesses and industry to make real change, and we need to do it very, very quickly. There are loads of CEOs and deputy CEOs of some very important companies out there who are vegan, I can tell you. We've got to keep pushing,
Yes, for sure.
Well, I almost agree, but so Ecotricity's policies, we have kind of red lines, and we would fall over ourselves to supply energy to a vegan business or a progressive one. But for us, we have a kind of red line that if a business is just famous for animal exploitation or for meat or whatever, there's a risk of greenwashing, we think, or vegan washing there.
I mean, what do you both think to this? So the mention of greenwashing, obviously Paul and I are coming from the energy industry. Greenwashing is a huge issue, unfortunately. But of course, both for yourselves and your background, you definitely will notice a similar kind of pattern in people jumping on a trend and therefore applying a label to hopefully capture more of those audiences. Do you think veganism is at a risk of that new version of greenwashing?
Actually, no. I think it's different with veganism, because actually if a company decides to push something as being vegan, even if they then retract and do something else, while that promotion is going on, and you've got things like massive billboards for vegan magnums, it's doing a job for us. We want to see companies like that using that word vegan and normalizing and pushing and making it mainstream all the time. And every time somebody buys even one vegan meal when they go out to eat, that dish is reducing greenhouse gases by about a half in terms of agricultural output. I mean, it's reducing the amount of land use for that dish by 76%. It's reducing eutrophication, water pollution, wildlife extinctions. So I think every vegan product that is bought or meal that is bought is worthwhile. So I will not call that greenwashing.
I'm not going to talk about the word vegan. I'm going to talk about the word sustainability. Because that is a word that just gets bandied around left, right, and centre now. You can walk into Primark and it's a sustainable something or other. It's like, is it really? I think that the word sustainable has become so prevalent in British society and the wider society now, and people hang their hat on it and think, oh yeah, what I'm doing is great. But that is a word that needs some definition. Because I feel that like no one really, it's almost like the word love. You know how you might love your mum or your newborn baby, or you might love like a vegan chocolate or whatever. It's like a really wide-ranging word, and the word sustainability is kind of the same. It's one person's sustainable is someone else's not sustainable. So I think it would be really good to sort of have a solid definition about what it means, and then we have like we hold businesses accountable when they start using it improperly. So.
Yeah, definitely.
For me, I mean, I love the adjective vegan because it's nice and tightly defined, isn't it? We all know what it means and what it stands for. I'm plant-based. It looks like I'm the controversial one on the panel today, but I worry a bit more about that term, actually, because I wonder, well, you know, why has that got so much currency, really? And I'm glad there are many plant-based products, but we already had a great adjective, vegan, you know, and I think for me, veganism kind of has connotations of activism or ethics about it, and maybe plant-based doesn't. So I worry a bit that it's kind of, you know, it's a sort of neutered term to use, and why not just stick to vegan in my view?
No, I do agree, actually, and it is a bit controversial. So when Pizza Express put vegan across their pizzas in massive letters in the supermarket, I was so thrilled. I was so thrilled that Greg has used the word vegan. I think we have to stick by it because we have to remember people are on a journey. We're all on a journey. Nobody's perfect. And I call it a road of compassion. So I agree. I think we should stick with the word that everybody understands. And yes, okay, if people buy into veganism for their own health, that's fine, because as you all know from the people you've met, once you open your heart to change, something happens to you. And suddenly you're prepared to look at the animal issues and you're prepared to look at the environmental issues. You shift. And whatever way we can get that shift, we got to use it.
Absolutely. Do you think that, so whether it's vegan or plant-based, or you're looking for a certain badge, because of course there's a few different certifications out there. I've mentioned we're really proud to be Viva and Vegan Society certified. I quite often look for those particular badges when I buy things. So when we're looking at that whole supply chain and going back to the question of the hidden ingredients and how far we look back at that, do you think that there are particular industries that have a bigger part to play in making sure that they're using the certain terminology, they're using the specific certifications? Are there some industries that need to do more than others do?
Obviously, the animal agriculture industry needs to go. You know, I mean, that full stop, isn't it? In terms of doing more, they are responsible. 90% of global deforestation is driven by agriculture, and almost all of that is due to animal agriculture. It is just appalling what is happening on this planet. So the animal agriculture, industry needs to go. Those that need to do more, the energy industry is a really obvious example, of course. The timber trade, it needs to be genuinely sustainable. It's far from it. So there are so many. The wildlife trade, of course, needs to go. There is no such thing as sustainable. They try, with fishing, they've tried to say sustainable for all of these decades. And what are they doing? They're actually driving the oceans to extinction. This really is the greenwashing, in a massive sense. I suppose those that have potential to be good, but largely are not, the energy industry and the timber industry. So, and the food industry needs to just go fully plant-based, in my opinion.
I think the word vegan is just generally a really good barometer for good. Okay, I think like every single bit about veganism is good. It's rooted in good, and therefore I think that not just animal agriculture industry, but I feel that every industry should have a little bit of vegan sprinkled on the top of it, because it would probably make everything just that little bit better. And like I say, it is just a wonderful barometer for like living well, doing business well, just living with compassion. I think it's an important thing, and big business could definitely do more with the word vegan attached to them.
Yeah. I agree. I think, obviously, in terms of footprint and actually avoiding harm to animals, then the food industry is the big one. However, I think some of the most interesting conversations happen when you take veganism to unexpected places, like my boss Dale Forest Green Rovers Football Club. You've got a football club now as well, haven't you?
No, we sponsor a football club.
Sponsor a football club.
Also a vegan football club.
Yeah.
Newark and Sherwood United. So,
Fantastic.
yeah, it's good.
Second one, yeah. But taking it there, you wouldn't think, well, why do you need to make sport vegan? But actually, that's exposed the concept to loads and loads of people who've never even thought about veganism before. Away fans, when they come and see Forest Green Rovers play, might have their first vegan burger ever. So I think actually, of course, the food industry, but as you said, every sector can provoke some really interesting conversations and raise awareness.
Yeah, definitely at Ecotricity, we've certainly been very, very vocal in educating, haven't we, what that means, vegan energy, and what other companies are doing that are not vegan. And it's been fascinating talking to so many people across this weekend, where each and every one of the people that I've spoken to have gone, oh my goodness, that's crazy, I didn't know that was the case. So I definitely agree, it needs to be everywhere, and it needs to be vocalised, it needs to be educated. We need to know what's going on, don't we? So I'm going to finish with my lovely panel on a really big question. Perfect world. What do you see for, or what do you hope for, I'm not going to say veganism, and I'm not going to say vegan industry, I'm going to say for us vegans as individuals.
Well, as individuals, when you go vegan, it's a roller coaster, isn't it? Because you go through different emotions when you wake up to the reality of what is happening on this planet. And once you've woken up, there's no going back. And so you start to notice things. You start to look at videos, where you see, and I personally investigate how animals are factory farmed, and I've seen animals literally dying in pain in front of me far too many times. I'm aware of the impact on our world. We're setting up Viva in Uganda this year. It's one of the most beautiful countries on the planet, but I'm deeply aware of how animal agriculture is destroying, the forests of the world and all the wildlife that are with it. So I think from a personal vegan perspective, what I want to feel and see is peace, not violence, and compassion, not suffering. And I think that really sums it all up for me.
Yeah. I think us vegans could get a little bit more sneaky. Yeah, we could get really, really sneaky. And the sneak here is essentially us going around to our meaty mates' houses and cooking them a nice meal and showing them that vegan food is super delicious, super healthy, and isn't weird at all. We were talking about this on our talk yesterday. We were talking about the idea of setting up a mind wave, where basically the challenge was put more plants on your mates' plates. And that is essentially just get your mates around for dinner who don't happen to be vegan, cook them a vegan meal, show them that it's actually really, really easy. And that could potentially just cause a big change, just small things done by many people, lots and lots of times, create big change. So yeah, that's it, sneakiness.
Perfect world. I think Juliet would be Prime Minister, firstly. I would certainly.
Dale would be my energy minister.
But yeah, look out there. We've got a little mini perfect world going on, haven't we? We're compromising on nothing at this festival and having the time of our lives, right? So we just need this, but a lot bigger, right? And compassion is the norm, and you're with great people with similar views.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So we're going to pass over to our lovely audience for any questions.
So speaking of hidden ingredients, why is milk powder and everything, and how do we get rid of it?
I think that the reason why that's in there, from a food perspective, is mouthfeel. Because it kind of gives this silky slipperiness across the tongue, and people seem to really, really like that. So I think that is one of the reasons why casein, the milk powder, gets into bits and bobs here, there, and everywhere. But yeah, it'd be great if they just took it out. We'd be able to eat loads more food if they just took it out. But hey ho.
Yeah, I get really frustrated when there's a vegan product, Pringles, where they were vegan and then start adding ingredients that are no longer vegan. I think surely you're just cutting off a load of your audience. It really is a bugbear. But great question.
I just think the reality is that one of the reasons milk powder is used is because the dairy industry has been so supported by government for literally decades. And that was one of the reasons it started appearing in just about, literally thousands of products. So I think that there are political reasons behind these things too.
Hiya. So within veganism, obviously we strive to do the best for the animals. But speaking of hidden ingredients and a lot of crime and all of these things, I was wondering, at what point do we also take into consideration the human cost of some of the things that we're buying? You talked about Primark, we've talked about food, in the energy sector and the government, there's criminal underpaying of some people, not just like in the NHS, in the energy sector and all of these places. At what point should we take that as a hidden non-vegan ingredient? People being kind of like underpaid to the point of suffering in a cost of living crisis, etc.
I think that's a brilliant question. I mean, one of my massive passions is women's rights. I cannot bear the fact that women are treated the way they are in fact, the majority of the world. And I do see all of these issues as connected. I see it as I said before, as a road of compassion. And I think it's really to get people on that road, because unfortunately we've been normalised to thinking that cruelty and suffering is acceptable. And we have been pushed to the margins as being the extremists for caring. You would think if we were an intelligent species, we would act on the evidence and do the opposite, but we do not. And we tend to follow rather blindly. So I think once you get people on this road of compassion, I think then you start to educate as people go along that road, and you add in the different issues as you go along. So I do think it's part and parcel, and I think it should be, actually. I think you're absolutely right. It's all there. But I just temper that with saying, when you're dealing with somebody who eats meat, fish, dairy, eggs, the whole lot, you have to gently bring them along that road and be honest, but congratulate and cajole and nudge, rather than be judgmental and telling them that they're not perfect. It's all about tone and how you do it. But I agree, absolutely. Once you've made those decisions and you are fully vegan and you're confident in your veganism, I believe, you really should be taking those human rights arguments into account when you're that educated, definitely.
Me too. I think, for me, veganism is, of course, it's about what you put in your mouth, but if you really care about animals, it's also about making sure that you're taking climate action and you're creating viable ecosystems for animals to survive in the future, right? So definitely veganism, I think, goes a lot wider than food, and it is this broader definition of sustainability.
Are there any politician vegan groups, any politician vegan literacy training sort of schemes that Viva or Ecotricity could do? That would be amazing. I don't know if it exists, but I think that would be a really powerful thing to bring all of the vegan politicians together to get their voices heard as well.
There's a thing, Henry and I have been to this thing at Parliament, which is bonkers. You walk into this incredible old building. In this little room, there's a thing called the Plant-Based Food Alliance. And basically we go there, and we've been there a couple of times. And it's just, you've got a couple of MPs in the room, but then you've also got some kind of change makers in the room too from the vegan community. And we basically go and chat to the MPs and say, you're doing this, you probably shouldn't be doing that, you could do this better. And we kind of, the Plant-Based Food Alliance do provide a kind of mouthpiece for the vegan community into Parliament. So it does exist, but it needs to be a lot bigger. Is there a vegan party? Should we set one up? Who's going to vote for us? Hey! Yeah, so, it's a really good question, because, big change starts right at the top, doesn't it? So, that would be good. To have more of a mouthpiece in Parliament, great.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Dale himself is just such a force of nature, definitely the most inspirational boss I've ever had. And he's out there networking as hard as he can with politicians. So the other thing is not quite the same thing, but he's also started something called the Ministry of Eco-Education, which is all about getting veganism and sustainability into school curriculums. And of course, those guys are the politicians of the future, right? So we need to get it into schools and then into politics as well.
I think there is a bit of a reality check with this, because there have been animal rights and animal welfare parties who have launched, and when it comes to the actual voting, although people say they'll vote for them, let's just say they got very, very few votes and no MPs in Parliament. And even the Green Party, if you think about, much as I love the Green Party and everything it stands for, if you look at the number of MPs it's got, I'm not saying it's not had influence, it has, but not as much anywhere near as I would like, and as I'm sure as you would like. And they have a structure and have been going for quite a long time now. So the question is, why don't people like yourselves stand with the Labour Party, because at the moment we're really a two-party state, and actually become voted for as an MP? Because I think that is the way that we can really change things. And why the hell isn't Dale Vince their energy minister now? I don't understand it. He is just brilliant. He's the best spokesperson they could ever have. But I'm serious to you all out there, think about it. Think about, heading that way, because that's what we need. We need vegan people to go forward as Labour Party MPs.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming along, and thank you to our speakers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers. Nice one, guys.